Dear guests, could you please take your seats? We are about to begin. Thank you.
We invite on the stage the moderator of the fourth panel debate, Digitalization, Infrastructure, Connectivity, and Trade, Ms. Shiret Elezi, Professor of Economics at the State University of Tetovo.
Good afternoon to everybody. I please want all the panelists of today's panel, Digitalization, Infrastructure, Connectivity and Trade, to come on the stage. Together with us today is Mr. Blagoy Bochvarsky, Minister of Transport and Communication, Mr. Ari Naim, Regional Manager, Central and Southeast Europe, International Finance Cooperation, Mrs. Sanya Lukarevska, Director of Public Revenue Office of North Macedonia, Mrs. Slavica Kutirov, Director of the Custom Administration, Mr. Alexander Bragnosi, Head of Regional Representation of European Investment Bank of the Western Balkan, Mr. Yeton Akigu, Director, Agency for Electronic Communication, Mr. Metodija Mircev, CIO of AEDEN, Mr. Nikola Ljusev, CIO of Makedonski Telekom. Welcome to everybody on this very important panel. Yesterday we heard about the monetary and fiscal policy and lots of challenges that faces on the financial aspects. Today we will continue with digitalization, connectivity, infrastructure and trade, and the most important thing about acceleration growth. We meet at a time when global economy faces energy crisis and rising prices, which is affecting all citizens after the COVID crisis. The road ahead remains precarious and subject to several downside risks. We have at least 4 crises right now that are all interwoven. We have high inflation in the Euros and the Western Balkans, the energy crisis, we have food poverty, and we have climate crisis as well. And we can solve them if we don't concentrate only on the one, but we have to accelerate and to solve them together. After the economic recovery in 2021, when economic activity in North Macedonia grew up to 4%, in 2022 we have a return to the pre-crisis level as expected, but at a low level compared to previous projections, with this as a result of the economic consequences, inflation and the Russian-Ukrainian war. Hence, the economic growth in 2022 will be considerably revised downwards compared to the initial this year budget projections in 3.2%. Global economy activity is expected to grow 3.6% in 2022 according to the latest projections of the International Monetary Fund, and the EU economic growth is projected in 2.9%. Also, the International Monetary Fund expects in April that in developing economies, the inflation rate this year will be an average 5.7%, while in developing countries 8.7% or 2.8% higher than January projections. We are also facing with lots of other challenges in this meanwhile. Our first priority in this moment of the crisis is how to maintain price stability as a key factor, ensuring macroeconomic and financial stability, to achieve long-term economic growth and to maintain fiscal sustainability. The government implemented a sizable fiscal stimulus program in total amount of 650 million euros starting from November 2021 until today. According to the last World Bank report, North Macedonia has a very huge fiscal stimulus, 4.9% of the GDP. The long-term economic growth, economic development based on smart principles is also very important. Human capital development, scaled up capital investment, green economic transition, innovation and digitalization, implementation of tax reform strategy, all to the end of attaining an accelerated, inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Scaled up capital investment are prevalent topic. According to the Growth Acceleration Plan 2022-2026 adopted from the government, investment in the amount of 4 billion euros, public funds in the next 5 years are projected by mobilization additional 8 billion euros invested by the private sector. As regard improved dynamic of implementation of capital investment, initial results from the CAPEF mechanism, which also raises the realization of the capital investment in North Macedonia. The government also has adopted the Economic Reform Program 2022-2024 and has been submitted to the EU in January this year. It contains more than 20 reforms, measures related to green transition, solid waste and wastewater management, energy efficiency, renewable energy, intelligent transport system, reduction of informal economy, green project, etc. The government adopted also a national transport strategy 2018-2030 for the construction of modern and safe road and rail infrastructure, including the project construction of the national gas pipeline network that is of a strategic economic importance for the country. Ensuring fair, transparent and modern tax system, better cooperation at the international level is essential for increased efficiency and productivity of the tax system in terms of improved revenue collection, more efficient fight against illegal activities and tax evasion, and strengthening institutional capacity, analysis and review of the tax base, reduction of tax arrears, and implementation of digitalization. We also know that the fiscal policy should continue to support the economic recovery, reconstructing and accelerating economic growth. Some sectors are still vulnerable and many firms are still exhausted in terms of liquidity and solvency. In that sense, premature fiscal consolidation, consequently, the withdrawal of the financial support for the economy and vulnerable categories of citizens can halt or prolong the recovery period and in the end could result in high public debt as a percentage of GDP. So the fiscal support should be targeted to vulnerable households and to specific priorities areas. That's why financial support for the economy is so important. Investment in the public sector and mobilization of private capital through private-private partnership, guarantee schemes, privatization, etc., it will be beneficial effect on medium-term economic growth. Sustainable infrastructure, technology, and renewable energy are the next high-growth sector. Today with us, we will talk in all these mentioned previous topics. Yesterday, the distinguished Professor Krugman mentioned that the state should pay more attention to bad roads, highways, because they have the key to the economic development and attracting investment. In times of crisis, investment can be attracted from Europe to the countries in the Western Balkans, and for this, the road infrastructure is very important in improving road infrastructure and investment in transport. Capital expenditures are very high planned in the budgets of state budget and they have a very high realization. In 2022, we have doubled the planning capital investment in the state budget, which is also 20.3% higher than last year. The gross investment is planned in 5%, and in the medium term, the GDP or the capital expenditure and the structure, it's planned to be 5.9% in the average in 2026. We have also applied with the information that the government has adopted the Growth Acceleration Plan in 2022-2026 in October to accelerate economic growth in realization of the strategy for economic recovery and accelerating growth for smarter growth and budget consolidation policies. We have also economic investment program from the EU for the Western Balkans 2021-2027, which has aimed to invest more than 9 billion euros in the Eurofund for Western Balkans. Given to consideration that infrastructure has a two-way relationship with economic growth, infrastructure promotes economic growth, and economic growth brings about changes in infrastructure. Association between infrastructure and GDP growth is observed in many
topics related to economic growth and the development of the country at large, especially in these times of different crises interwoven in not only in our country but in the entire region and Europe. A number of aspects and theses have been mentioned, but my favorite topic is our strategic role and positioning in the Balkan Peninsula in terms of connecting two key corridors. And I'm very happy that the Minister of Finance is here today. We've had many opportunities to talk about capital and investments with him in this past year. And of course, Minister Besimi is one of those people with very serious understanding regarding the amounts of funds necessary to improve the infrastructure for us to implement the high quality projects so that they are well implemented and to be able to catch up with the pace and catch up what we have missed in the past in terms of building quality infrastructure and to move forward to Europe and other countries of the European continent in terms of high quality infrastructure. It is good that we have the director of the Public Revenue Office here with us and the Customs Administration because a large amount of money comes through their offices into their budget, and we are talking about how to spend these funds so that these projects can be beneficial for the citizens, etc. So the key issue for me is the planning here. We need to know how to plan the future projects, future steps. We need to have a solid technical documentation to avoid ups and downs and oscillations in the implementation, which are difficult to manage with projections, etc. The old technical documentations has always resulted in new procedures, new projects, expropriations, involving as many as 20 institutions in order to unblock or to implement a project of 500 million euros. So this is a serious challenge for the institutions, but we have to respect all the procedures that are relevant for the construction. As the construction itself, we will avoid serious shortcomings and issues after the construction has commenced, and something that has happened in the past in our country. So I have to mentioned that the construction of Corridor 8 is of key importance for us. The highway Kichevo-Ohrid has started to materialize in the section number 5, and also the Ohrid Airport, in the area of Ohrid Airport. So we have started to work intensely on the finalization of this immense project of 500 or 600 million euros. Also, the expansion of Corridor 8 from Rankovce to Kriva Palanka, which is being constructed with a loan of the World Bank, and also the remaining segments of Corridor 8, Kičevo, Gostivar, Trebenište, Struga, Kjafasan. These are very important projects. We need to see this crisis as a chance, as an opportunity. In these turbulent times for Europe, by constructing a modern infrastructure and infusing funds in the infrastructure to be able to overcome these crises faster. And this crisis has taken too much time, and these are crises that are overlapping each other. So the energy crisis, the war crisis, the increase of prices in construction materials. This is also something that that creates issues and problems in the implementation of the project, but the construction period season is ongoing. And also I would like to mention some good examples. Two projects through IPA funds, express road from Gradsko to Drenovo, Corridor 10 D. We have been talking about this express road for 20 years, and today it is being built, and also the road section Pletvar is also being reconstructed. So we are gaining momentum in the construction of road infrastructure. We are working on the express road from Štip to Kočani as well. The amount of 48 million euros, and Štip Radoviš as an express road. We have finished it before the deadline, and it is a very high quality road. And we basically prove in this way, when we follow all the procedures, when we comply with all the procedures, we can finalize a huge project of 65 million euros within the deadline, encompassing all key stakeholders. The railway infrastructure, our citizens know that we've been talking about the railway to Bulgaria. We don't have any excuses now. We are selecting contractors from Kumanova to Belyakovce, Krivo, Palanka. This is the Corridor 8. This is definitely important, not only for connecting with our neighbors, but also for our country as well, for our economy to be more competitive towards east and west. So this is a very significant corridor that connects us to Bulgaria and Albania. And in this regard, we are also working on all procedures to provide funds for the railway to Albania. We are working on innovative models of projects. In Corridor 8, we are talking about the intelligent transport system, which is ongoing. Now we are in the stage of tender documentation. This will provide a new approach. This is a new type of projects that will be implemented in our country, aimed at better safety, better traffic throughout Corridor 8. And to conclude, I would like to highlight that we have the highest, the biggest budget, more than 350 million euros, and we are highly dedicated to utilize these funds together with our public enterprises in order to make up for what has been missed in the past, and to catch up with the necessary pace, and in order to have infrastructure to be proud of in the future. and all the citizens that transit our country to feel that they are moving in a modern infrastructure.
Thank you, Minister.
Благодарам, министре. Се надевам дека
We hope that the capital investment will be rising up and the realization will be in very good time. We will continue with Mr. Ari Naim, the Regional Manager at Central and Southeast Europe International Finance Corporation, taking into consideration that all the capital investment wouldn't be if we don't have financial support from financial institutions like the World Bank, the International Finance Corporation, the EBRD, and so on. The World Bank is realizing more than 60 projects with amount $2.8 billion and now running more than $480 million now time in Macedonia. As a partner, as a member of the World Bank Group, EFC has built a reputation of leading global development finance institution focused exclusively on private sector development. Since 2001, EFC has invested a total of more than 392 million euros, on which 192 million was mobilized in various sectors, including the banking, the energy, telecoms, pharmaceutical, textile, and automotives. EFC in Macedonia aims to leverage on cooperation with the World Bank in actualizing full potential for value-added export in unlocking the renewable energy sector and improving financial inclusion. So the question is to Mr. Naim, what are the investment priorities in the region of Southeastern Europe? Are the latest events a turning point in regional cooperation, and how to attract private investment in a time of uncertainty facing the global economy at the moment?
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Minister. Thank you, Shiret. You are right to mention that IFC focuses on the private sector and that we have invested $400 million in the economy of North Macedonia in the past 20 years. But it is also fair to recognize that in the past 5 years, we have not made any new investment. We have supported a lot your government in improving the business environment with the law on insolvencies of enterprises, for instance. We have invested, we have developed programs that have also led to improving the trade connectivity, in particular with the soft connectivity, and not only the hardware connectivity. We have developed a national blueprint for a single window for trade operation that will really help companies in the country and in the region to interact with much less procedure to export and import products across the region. And we are developing right now, in partnership with the DTFIZ, a supply chain development program to integrate more firms into global value chains and make sure that manufacturing investment that comes into the country can find local suppliers for their products. And that is going to be a very impactful program. But nevertheless, there has not been a very major private investment in the country outside of these sectors. And I would say at IFC, we are really pushing for the country to really operate a shift in its business model. I'm glad to see the title of this panel, because we are not anymore in a world where you could address separately infrastructure, education, skills, energy. Everything is interconnected, and the role of the government is really to be the pilot in an engine where, in a vehicle where the private sector should be the driving seat. Let me give you examples. When we think of the opportunities created by the situation today, first, about public versus private. Fiscal space is very limited. It has been consumed by 2 years of COVID, where active support packages have been put in place, rightly so. But now fiscal space is very limited. Unfortunately, this war in Ukraine is creating new needs for us, for government to support the population in front of increased inflation, increased energy prices, increased food prices. And so really thinking of what investment needs to be done by the public sector. like roads and connectivity, secondary roads, etc. But also what investment should be done by the private sector is extremely critical. And if I take the example of renewable energy, we have a new urgency now. The country is not going to attract new investors if it cannot provide these investors with green energy. So ESM has signed for 5,000 megawatt of new generation MOUs. None of these projects, or very little, are on the ground yet. So really, I think I would like to advise on a kind of shift of a business model that starts with a very strong vision that public sector needs to have the right policies, the right signals to attract private investment in a competitive way, get the best out of what exists in the world in terms of practices at a time of a lot of disruption. And we cannot, in a small country like North Macedonia, but even in the region, we cannot face that technology disruption without calling on external expertise and external capital. So you discussed the articulation between IFC and the World Bank. I mean, we are working very much together with the view that World Bank advises the government on how best to implement those policy and those structural reforms that will leverage private capital. And IFC can really help structure the projects that will attract these investors. All countries in the regions are competing for the same investors and the same investment. At the same time, one of the challenges the availability of the workforce for North Macedonia and the demographic challenge. On the other hand, you have a lot of opportunities. In this new conflict, we have regional value chains that are looking for new places to operate closer to Europe. You also have the food security agenda that is taking a new importance, and the capacity of this country to product agricultural product is very large and is untapped yet. Government alone is not going to be able to do this. Government should focus on opening up the markets. Let me give you the example of agriculture. I mean, there is a lot of public land that is not put at good use, competitive use, that could be better used. Laws in terms of, organization of the plots of lands and size of the plots of lands must be reviewed, and World Bank is working to support on this. But these are the kind of things that require a lot of focus, a lot of attention, a lot of work at both the technical and political level, but that can really position the country to attract more private investment. On our side, we are very much willing to help on organizing, competitive PPPs, in green energy in particular, right? Everywhere in the world, we are seeing state-owned utilities trying to get bigger at a time where they should be smaller, actually, and more focused on their core mission. Transmission is more important as an investment today than generation. That is an easy investment for the private sector to make. So I think very important topic. One other one, this country faces a problem with workforce. At the same time, North Macedonia is 144 in the world in terms of women participation in the workforce. So everything is interconnected. Government should focus on the right policies that will unlock these markets and these challenges, while private sector can really enter when they see a strong signal of commitment and of clarity about what is expected. I would stop here for now.
Thank you. So your also idea is on cooperation with the private sector and the government, and this is the mean in the growth acceleration plan, so a good point for the policymakers. Now we turn to the Director of the Public Revenue Office, Mrs. Sanja Lukarevska. Over the past few years, the Public Revenue Office has shown and provided that knows how to give contribution and to motivate taxpayers to fulfill the obligation towards the country through measures and policies, even in specific conditions. The uniqueness of the Public Revenue Office is manifested through its significant role in providing funds to the state budget, more than 72%, and depending on recent years, secured income, it rise from 63 to 72% in the project revenues. Also, according to the January-April realization, the tax revenues are high, 15.8%, which is very remarkable. On the other hand, the Public Revenue Office operatively implements the tax policy, maintains the single tax register and tax record to taxpayers, performs assessment and collecting of taxes, tax refund, Social Security contribution, perform an external audits, monitor and analyze the function of all the tax system, and for the realization and the priorities that are implemented in the Tax System Reform Strategy 2021-2025. The Public Revenue Office works with special commitment in the field of taxpayer services, with whom it built a partnership, and in that direction it is the overall modernization of the tax administration. The measures implemented by the tax administration also have a positive impact on improving the business climate. So the question for Mrs. Lukarevska, what are the modernization of the tax administration means for the improvement of the services to the taxpayers and to the measures taken to improve the business climate, especially during the pandemic with COVID-19 and the current world events? Through the action plan for suppression of the grey economy, you work intensively on the realization of the digitalization of the processes and measures that could affect strengthening of the tax awareness, the motivation of the economic entities to realize their activities in the formal economy. What are the key challenges you face as an institution? How will you contribute to ensuring a fair, efficient, transparent and modern tax system?
Thank you.
First of all, good day to you all. Thank you for the honor to be part of this forum among so many experts in the field. I think that this forum provides a modern way of presenting the economic tendencies where the country should get involved, and we as a tax authority. And I will add upon what the Minister Boczwarski mentioned, that for this year we have the greatest budget. So to invest in the development of infrastructure and what it means within the activities of the ministry. As Public Revenue Office, we have the challenge to gather more than what we have collected before, and what will be for us great task, and I think that we will realize it. In the recent period, as an institution, we implemented several anti-crisis measures. If we involve those packages during the COVID crisis, we helped companies, we facilitated keeping jobs, also we helped independent entrepreneurs and different target groups. I will not talk in numbers now. I think that we have mentioned the number for so many times. For the collection, tax collection for this period, to see how is that the statistics of the income as opposed to expenditures. If we compare the first 4 months of the year, we have tax income more than 20% compared to what we had as obligation for the last year, which shows that we actively care of the liquidity of the companies and in this very difficult time. Another interesting data is that we have continuous growth of collection of the personal income tax, especially if we see the whole structure of the tax, income tax. We have the increase in the part of the salary, of the wages, which means that the fight for keeping the jobs is in the right direction, but we should not stop there. And companies in the everyday communication with the tax officers, if we put in mind here the partnership that we insist on, especially with the large taxpayers, it means that they are also interested in opening more new jobs. We should monitor what will happen until the end of first semester of the year, so that we can have the whole picture. Of course, I should commend all companies that showed social responsibility and provided growth within the society, and we have many of them. We have mentioned them on different occasions, and again, to go back on building the partnership relationship with the companies. Tax refund, which is also one of the obligations. We collect taxes, but we also conduct refunds, and we respect the principle of regularity. I will mention two information. We have 75% higher value-added tax returns compared to 2020. We regularly refund value-added tax, and we influence the improvement of economic efficiency of companies. We provide them to enter new investment cycles and new jobs and growth of all activities in the country. Also, we continuously monitor that voluntarily compliance of the companies is above 95%, and we have shown there is a great sign of cooperativeness among companies, and we provided this voluntary compliance to be above all, above enforced collection and undertaking all those activities for those that are not paying the taxes. Of course, when we talk about communication in two directions, of course, we have we also implement creative solutions, and in context of modern institution, of course, we should pay attention to the processes of this digitalizations, which will provide for reduction of the gray economy. And it won't be enough if we just talk, but we should practically implement all the measures for fighting against the gray economy. At the moment, we are working in parallel on 3 projects. We want to make a special platform for payment, all declarations necessary related to the personal income tax. It should be put on one common platform together. Of course, with the Minister of Finance, we are working on a large project, and the light at the end of the tunnel is in 2023, and that will mean facilitation of the companies for e-services, e-procedures, and so on. And for us as an institution, it will mean more in the fight against tax evasion and not declaring services, and something that has not been implemented in this segment. What will be our obligation together with all the employees, we are putting best efforts, is to keep with the standards of the tax institutions in the region, communication with them and those in the European countries. Only with joint assistance and cooperation with the companies and our honest and continuous cooperation with them, we can accomplish our goal. Thank you.
So the high modernization of the tax revenue office and tying partnership with the private sector is also highly prioritized in your agenda. We will continue with Mrs. Slavica Kutirov, Director General of Customs Administration of the Republic of North Macedonia. Taking into regard, the Customs Administration is the leading agency for regulating the export, import, and transit of goods, collecting of about half of all the revenues in the state budget, and the key institution in our country in service of facilitating of cross-border international trade, ensuring the flow of the supply chain, and with it supporting the secure foundation for sustainable growth of the society. harmonization of the customs legislation with the EU acquis, effective and efficient collection of duties, trade facilitation through digital transformation and modernization of the capacities are the main strategic priorities of the customs administration. Digitalization of the processes is in the highest position on the agenda of this institution, realized by implementation of very complex IT systems and IT infrastructures. An important field of action is also the regional cooperation and integration within the CEFTA parties, trade liberalization, and lately the intensified activities with the Open Balkan Initiative. We are a small economy, and regional cooperation is a very important of achievement of economic efficiency. For this reason, today we will talk with the Director of the General of Customs Administration, Mrs. Kutirov, how much and in which way the process of digitalization of the customs procedures has facilitating the work of the companies and the government in improvement of their efficiency, reducing the cost and improvement the trade flows in the Republic of North Macedonia, and what are the future expectations in this field. The next question will be the facilitation as the customs of the cross-border trade based on the regional activities. Customs administration is supporting the integration within the CEFTA and is a very active participant in the Open Balkan Initiative, especially in the area of free movement of goods. Could you please tell us more about your contribution on these initiatives and which action has been undertaken so far? What are the achievements and planned activities for the future?
Thank you, Ms. Elezi, for the question, and thank you for the invitation to address you on this panel. Customs administrations around the world are constantly facing with the challenge to facilitate the trade, legal trade, and to prevent the illegal trade. And this is not an easy job. Especially in the last 2 years, we also faced with some additional circumstances such as pandemic, and in that context we tried to, as institution, to adapt on the new environment and to prevent all illegal or necessary things as institution. We have to present capacity to effectively implement the measures which were introduced by the government and also all other activities in the region. At the same time, we constantly have to ensure the seamless flow of the global supply chain. Speaking about the digitalization of customs operation, I must mention that it is a very important tool for trade facilitation. And it is a global process which attends to implement a paperless customs environment for all customs operations. In that part, I will just mention several very important complex IT solutions and systems which we were focused in the last decade and which significantly have influence in the facilitation of trade in the region, especially for the domestic companies. In that context, I must mention the single window system for export, import, and transit licenses, one of the most powerful tools for trade facilitation, relevant by the international organizations such as World Customs, UNEC, etc. Also in 2015, we implement a new computerized transit system with which we provide to the economic operators with the minimum stops and delay to cross the borders. And I must, in that occasion, I would like to say that we are already working on the implementation of a new single window system, which is supported by the World Bank, IFC, and together with the Republic of Serbia and Albania, as a part of a trade facilitation and trade and transport facilitation project. But, however, we can say that the real digital transformation of the customs administration was after a long period of development and preparation, was done in 2019 with the implementation of customs declaration processing system. This new technologically advanced platform give us possibility to integrate with all other information systems in our IT environment. And we are using this as a tool and platform for further integration for any other services and system which we are planning to develop in the next period. And I would like to mention that currently we are working on several other very important projects, including, as I mentioned, development of new NCTS Phase 5 project, and new single window, new economic operators registration and identification system. And also we are working on the e-commerce domain and providing of services to enable electronic payment of our services. Today, the Customs Administration is ensuring over 99.7% availability of services of these systems, through which monthly we process over 1,100 electronic declarations. And in 2021, regardless of the crisis, we have ensured efficient collections of our planned duties revenues in the state budget. When we talk about the effects of the digitalization process, I will share with you one analysis and research which was done in 2021 by the UNECE. It is the report on digital and sustainable trade, which measures and evaluates the results of the governments and customs administrations in the countries of the Southeast Europe, in the categories of the transparency, formalities, institutional agreements, and paperless trade. And in this report, North Macedonia is ranked highest among the countries in the region with the score of 81.72%. But I must stress that these latest results, which we are very happy for, that this process and all this have to be followed by the proper intensity and investment in the technology and human resources by the other relevant institutions, by the business community and IT sector, in order to be achieved the real benefits of this transformation. Apart from the digitalization, as Shiret mentioned, we are also focused on the regional cooperation activities in order to provide further facilitation of trade and benefits for the economic operators. And I must mention that the regional cooperation has never been at higher level than today. Through great number of activities, mainly realized within the CEFTA and the last year intensively in the Open Balkan Initiative, we are working on additional acceleration of the cross-border flow of goods in the region. One of these activities is the introduction of the joint border crossing or one-stop shop concept, which already functioning in the Tabanovce-Preševo border crossing point. And this week, we expect the additional reconstruction to be completed, finalized, and the customs and border police officials from the Serbia to be positioned on our side, on the border. So, this will enable finally the single stop and harmonized flow at the entrance of the North Macedonia as well. We are also working on the establishment of the same concept with Albania and also with Kosovo. Also, I would just mention several other activities, such as green corridors, and taking into consideration the positive experience and effect from the CEFTA region, we are working on the expansion of these green corridors with the EU member states. The signing of a memorandum with the Republic of Greece for establishment of green corridor at the Bogorodica-Evzoni border crossing is planned next month in Thessaloniki. Also, very important project is a SID Plus project, which should provide exchange of border documents. And for the end, I would just like to mention some results from the time release study, which were done with the support of IFC, using the methodology of the World Customs Organization. The results of this study shows that if we compare the similar with the study in 2015, the findings are that there is a significant reduction of the customs clearance time. For example, on Tabanovce, the average time is reduced from 5.43 to 1.37 hours, which is 2.5 times less than 2015. And also a significant reduction of time is noticed at Inland Custom Office of Skopje. So at the end, these results are mostly based on digitalization, on regional cooperation, but also of many other activities which are taken under the customs administration and which we are working on in order to further facilitate the trade.
Thank you. So digitalization and modernization will lower time spending and money. Today with us is Mr. Alexandru Ambraniozzi, head of the regional representation of European Investment Bank of the Western Balkans. Yesterday, the European Investment Bank opened an office as a bank in the European Union in Skopje, which means they are now closer to us, so it's good to hear to the government. The European Investment Bank has been present in the Western Balkans more than 40 years, and in North Macedonia has invested more than 1.1 billion euros. Since 2009, the European Investment Bank has unlocked more than 635 million euros to small, medium enterprises and mid-caps, sustaining over 1,000 jobs in the process over the same period. The European Bank allocated over 300 million euros to the construction of a modern transportation network to the North Macedonia, contribution to road safety, reduced travel times and regional cohesion. Also, one of the most important is support to faster recovery from the COVID-19 to the private sector, together with the ProCredit Bank in 2020 unlocked more than 50 million euros to save jobs and to combat the impact of the COVID-19 crisis to the local businesses. Additional, in 2021, together with the Development Bank of North Macedonia, the EIB provided more than 100 million euros. These funds are available under more favorable conditions as immediate support of small and medium-sized enterprises and also financing all the activities that will be needed for the small and medium enterprises. Recent activities are that the EIB has unlocked also 156 million euros for Macedonia to enable small and medium-sized enterprises to recover more quickly and to facilitate the construction of a new gas network between North Macedonia, Greece, essential for stable and secure energy supply. Today with us, we will talk with Mr. Alexandru Ambraniozzi. Where do you see the European Investment Bank contribution for the country's development to date, and in what way are the current crises impacting your activities and strategies for the region? Looking ahead, how do you see your role as the EU bank in closing the infrastructure and financial gap in Macedonia in the region?
First of all, again, also on my side, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here, especially as you mentioned in the backdrop of the opening of our new office yesterday and following on the keynote speech of the Vice President Liliana Pavlova, responsible for the whole region. You have heard from her regarding the strategies of the bank, the way and the passionate commitment that we have for the region, and the way we plan to increase our support to sustainable infrastructure, private sector development, and of course the green agenda. In relation to what EIB role in, let's say, weathering the crisis and supporting the region and the country in this situation, I would like to take a few points from the previous panels, the one in energy and also the speech from yesterday from Professor Krugman. in relation to what are, let's say, the opportunities that we can see ahead, and what are the sectors where we should invest more. Not to take from I mean, clearly we heard before, energy investments are important, both on the production side, energy, and on the energy savings or energy efficiency. So clearly, and as we said before, EIB is a main financier of the green agenda for the Western Balkans, and has clear ambitions in terms of volumes, targets, and support, which are defined through something that we call the Climate Bank Roadmap, which ensures that all our activities are Paris aligned. In relation to, more specifically, the sectors covered by this panel, I would like just to say that, referring to your introduction on EIB support to the private sector, and in particular the backbone of the economy, the local SMEs, of course, it is important that we continue a long-standing relationship with our counterparts in the country, particularly the Development Bank of North Macedonia, with whom we have invested more than 550 million over the years, but also with the commercial banking sector, because access to finance remains a constraint for the companies to develop capital investment, and of course, coming back to the point of greening their activity, also to invest in new forms of securing energy supply, including renewable energies. And in this, let's say, framework, we have to intensify our cooperation, so moving ahead from simple access to finance or provision of liquidity, and we are working together with the European Commission on new forms of innovative instruments, and with the Development Bank of North Macedonia on particular financing dedicated to, for example, energy efficiency and innovation investments. On the public sector investment side, I will say that yesterday we heard there's an opportunity that came from first the COVID-19 and then from the current crisis of rethinking the globalization trend, moving towards more regionalization, and particularly nearshoring. And therefore, countries like North Macedonia, they need to reap the benefit of this new framework. And on that perspective, Professor said what is important, first of all, is to develop transport infrastructure. And I can easily say that transport infrastructure investment has been the pillar of EIB financing since the beginning of its activity in 1958. And in the Western Balkans, we have financed over 2.3 billion over the last 10 years only in transport infrastructure. North Macedonia is, of course, part of this framework of investment. And we can continue to do more. And in that perspective, also Ambassador Geer mentioned existing financial instruments that help countries like North Macedonia, even in the context of tightening of fiscal space, to use better existing resources and the financing of EIB. And this framework is the Western Balkans Investment Framework. It's a financing instrument that has been set up over a decade ago, which provides countries in the region to have access to, on the one hand, technical assistance support that helps the preparation and the maturity of large infrastructure projects, but also, and more, and this is, I think, the most important aspect of the economic investment plan, they stepped up on the financing contribution from the European Commission to this kind of investments. The economic investment plan identifies flagship investments. Most of them are in the connectivity area, also on the digital, and I will be happy to hear from colleagues on development on the digital and on the mobile networks. But let's say this framework of WBF provides a way to utilize 9 billion of EU grants, which comes through the IPA funding. IPA funding has associated 14 billion circa of funding to the enlargement region. which is significant. To give you an order of figure, only last year, the first package of investments under this EIP totaled 3.2 billion of investment approved, and 1.1 were of grants. So it's a significant contribution. And countries that have less space to take new debt to finance this structure, they should try to benefit of this. I've heard transport associated to roads. We also have to think of more, let's say, a cleaner or less emitting forms of transportation. Of course, EIB is financing railway networks. The minister mentioned Corridor 8. We are also financing Corridor 10 now from Serbia down to Preševo, and further on we would like to continue down to Skopje. So these are key investments for us that should support the development of the country. And last but not least, as I said, to reap the benefit of nearshoring, also companies, they need to be able to hire more skilled workforce, and this comes with investment in education, and particularly in digital education. We are doing this kind of projects in the region, and we should also try to expand this kind of activity in North Macedonia, and also on the reduction of the digital divide. We have several projects in the region again, where we finance, together with partners, broadband infrastructure, or investment in the white zones, that's called, in terms of broadband. I see my time is up, so thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. So the importance of the presence of the European Investment Bank here near in Skopje, together with the authorities, will help our high realization of capital investment, indeed. We will now go to Mr. Yeton Akiku, Director of Agency for Electronic Communication. If we want to be efficient, we need to be digital. So as the Agency for Electronic Communication, as an independent regulatory body in the field of electronic communication, which is in charge to create strategies and policies aimed at the further development, especially for broadband internet access, as well as all challenges and opportunities offered by high-speed network, and all supported by the regulatory activities that need to be flexible and cooperative. One of the main and maybe the most important goal is to fulfill the needs and expectation to all the citizens and businesses in Macedonia, to provide them access to super-fast internet for an appropriate price for the quality of the services that is offering. Today we will talk with the director. How do we expect digitalization to increase with implementation of the new technologies, especially those from the next generation of network for businesses, 5G? As a regulator, it seems that we need to work on increasing competition in the field of electronic communication. How will it contribute to the greater development of society and growth?
Hello, thank you, dear Shirete, dear panelists. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to participate on this panel. The fifth generation of telecommunication system will be a critical building block of our digital economy and society in the next decade. Mobile traffic doubles every 2 years, and new applications are emerging, so 5G will provide the capacities and performances to meet these connectivity needs. These networks will be able to support millions of simultaneous connections in crowded places and perform real-time transmission of high-quality video feeds and remote operations. For deployment of the 5G, 3 pioneer frequency bands will be assigned to the operators in our country and in Europe and in most of the world. Those are the 700 MHz band assigned to mobile operators for wireless broadband use. It will allow for wide territorial coverage, including the rural areas. The 3.6 or 3.x gigahertz band, which is supposed to support the higher data sharing capacity and moderate reach, and the 26 gigahertz band for a very high data sharing capacity in dense areas. In technical terms, 5G networks are characterized by low latency, which is a near real-time network responsiveness. We're talking about latencies as low as 10 milliseconds. Wider bandwidth for ultra-fast data sharing, talking about speeds 10 to 20 times faster than the ones we get with 4G, and a guaranteed quality coverage and availability, having a part of the network reserved for a particular use and enabling the connection of up to 1 million devices per square kilometer. These three characteristics of 5G will help in solving the problems that couldn't be solved until now in every sector, and in some sectors it's expected to revolutionize them. The enhanced mobile broadband, or the high speed, will have a major impact in the consumer market with ability to offer speed and reliability compared to fiber. The operators will be able to respond to the ever-increasing demand for high bandwidth, high data rate, for streaming HD videos, and for the small offices and home offices using high data traffic services, and advanced use cases like the 3D gaming and the augmented and virtual reality. The massive machine type communication will improve automotive safety and coordinated driving by providing assistance for blind turns on roads, intersections, queue warning, and speed optimization by providing real-time signaling with HD maps and with latency, as I mentioned earlier, low as 10 milliseconds. Also, the ability to connect up to 1 million devices per square kilometer will help agriculture sector by providing the sector to benefit from massive number of interconnected sensors collecting precise and real-time data from crops, plants, and livestock. The healthcare sector is also will be impacted, will have a major impact from 5G implementation, since it will enable vital tracking variables and HD cameras to meet hard real-time specification, thus enabling remote streaming consultations with rural areas and addressing emergencies with no delay. And by using robotic arms and combined with haptic sensing, telesurgery will become a reality. 5G technology has been designed to be more energy efficient than previous generations. This is mainly achieved through low power, small antennas, and through efficient technology where transmission power is only generated when really needed. Notably, 5G use a power-saving mode more systematically, only activating network resources when there is an active traffic. 5G will also support greener and more sustainable energy consumption, and will support better management of renewable energy resources and allow families, businesses, and cities to have more insight into their energy use and a smarter way to manage it. We as a regulator, we are in the phase hoping by the next month to finish delivering the 5G spectrum needed to the operators so they can provide the consumers with all the benefits from 5G. The only, let's say, problematic issue is because we have a case we are the only country in Europe with two mobile network operators, which came as a result of merging of two operators into one. And in that sense, we as a regulator, we then made possible the entry of MVNOs first, because that was the fastest way to attract new operators. Those are virtual network operators that don't have their own network, but use the network of the existing operators. And we have already 3 operators, MVNOs operating, and the 4th one to start these days. But this measure, let's say, didn't give any great results, because only the 3 MVNOs managed to only get 3% of the market share, leaving the 97% to the actual operators to share it, let's say, approximately 50-50. We also, in this process, when we are delivering the spectrums for the operators, we also have a special slot for a new operator, which we hope would come. In every band, there are reserved slots for a new possible operator. And we have some policies and, let's say, bylaws that we can somehow help the new operators and the MVNOs to give them, let's say, a more competitive environment. We regulate the wholesale prices and the termination rates in the first 3 to 4 years after a new operator has come. And maybe, because time is up, I also would like to announce we will have a new operator a bit different than the actual ones. Starlink Macedonia is notified today, so they will start operating, providing internet services through satellite with a different way, not the usual way the operators do.
Thank you. So we see that from the yesterday panelist, the internet traffic has risen to in 2020, 2021, higher than in general it was obvious realized the traffic until 2016. So ambitious agenda for the regulator, and together we will continue with our panelist, Mr. Metodie Mircev, CEO of AEDEN. About AEDEN Macedonia is a member of the AEDEN Telekom Austria Group, a leader provider of communication and digital solution in Central and Eastern Europe, cooperating in 7 countries and providing service for more than 25 million customers, and in Macedonia 1.2 million customers. The service affected by the company enabled a digital way of life and work, as well as the opportunity for companies to think to connect it anywhere and anytime, taking into the consideration the lockdown that was in 2020. We are witnessing a very turbulent era, starting with the COVID pandemic and continuing with the current world macroeconomic situation. In these times, connectivity is crucial more than ever. How do the telecommunications provider handle, on the one side, the internet battles to stay effective and productive, and on the other side, the duty to deliver imperishable service to the society? Where is the future of the connectivity going? Significant influence on the fourth industrial revolution is from the investment in the ICT by the business sector. What is the landscape in our country, and how open is the business sector in North Macedonia for innovative technological solutions?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank you for having an opportunity being in this panel, and you definitely pose very interesting questions. I would like to summarize looking here about the major topics which we are discussing here, and it's connectivity, infrastructure, and digitalization. Now, it has been mentioned prior, and also you mentioned in your question, definitely the connectivity is a critical service providing the sustainability of the society, both for the consumer, both for the business sector, the public and the private. And also you mentioned the COVID. Let's not forget that not so far away, actually, even the connectivity was the basic mean of social interaction. Now, it has been also mentioned by Mr. Akiku here that definitely we do see a burst in traffic, and this is something which is a fact. Having a comparison in the corona year, which was 2020, with the year 2019, actually we saw the double of the traffic consumption, and this is something which have to be served by our networks. And definitely going further, this is something which will not stop. Even on a global level, it is estimated that the traffic evolution will be approximately 40% year over year. The connectivity is critical. All the values which are derived on this connectivity platform are also becoming accessible, and the importance even higher, and definitely this goes into the direction of having a strong investment into the expansion of our networks. At this stage, A1 Macedonia is in the process of upgrade of radio access network. So actually we're investing approximately 30 million euro at this stage into developing the new radio access network, which is also going to be in a position to provide 5G services. I'm glad to hear, as Mr. Akiku just mentioned, that in the following weeks, this was weeks? Yeah. Hopefully in 1 month, we are going to have the positive allocation of the frequencies, which are going to be the basis for the deployment of 5G services in Macedonia. And also what has been mentioned prior, let's not forget that the 5G services are the technological platform for the expansion of the industry and the economy overall. And definitely the use cases which were mentioned just prior are the use cases which we are already working on. This is the mobile part. Let's not neglect the fixed part. Definitely the deployment of FTTH, or the fiber to the home, is one of our strategic objectives. So the fiber optic is the future-proof technology. We as A1 Macedonia in the following 5 years are going to invest approximately 50 million euro into the FTTH deployment. And our plans are, I would say, pretty ambitious, because we want to roll out approximately 30 to 40 households on a yearly basis, which is a substantial amount. Definitely here we have to see other opportunities of financing, and this is something which also has been mentioned, because our business cases are flying in the urban areas, but unfortunately when we go to the rural areas, here we do see that unfortunately the cost of a rollout does not correlate with the revenues. And definitely we are envisioning solid cooperation from funds, EU funds, the World Bank funds, and so on and so forth, to be in a position to propagate this service, which at the end of the day is the future, as I mentioned prior, the future-proof connectivity, which actually will drive the expansion and the evolution of the economy. The second topic which was mentioned here was the digitalization. We as telco operators in the industry, we are very deep into the digital transformation. I would say it goes into two directions. The first direction is the internal transformation for the efficiency evolution, and especially in the segments which are labor intense. So at this stage, we already have up and running platforms which are relying on artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotization, marketing automation, and this is actually already in place, and all these platforms are providing increased efficiency, but also indirectly providing a better customer experience on the customer journey for our subscribers. On the other side, definitely it is also investment into digital transformation tools or platforms which are customer-facing platforms. Sophisticated e-commerce platforms, mobile apps, chatbots. I mean, our customers can chat with the robots. Now we are developing voice bots where actually they can communicate through voice. So this is something which actually goes into our digital transformation agenda and strategy, and this is something which we are pursuing on a long-term plan. Now here I would like also to use the opportunity and having representatives also from the governmental side that yes, although we are pushing heavily the digital transformation, but this has to be aligned also with the digital transformation strategy of the society, starting even from the digital ID, which is going to be a critical element in actually speeding up this process. And last but not least, I would like also to emphasize one element, and this is something which you also mentioned in your question, and this is the value, the customer value, the customer benefit, the customer value we are providing to our subscribers. We as telco industry, we don't want to be pushed into a corner that we are going to be infrastructure owners and just providing, the connectivity. Because at this stage, we live in a society where the disruption of the value chains is enormous. I mean, we all use WhatsApps and Vibers and Netflixes and everything. And it has been said previously that, yes, we have to invest constantly, and our capital expenditures are enormous, and the OPEXs are coming afterwards for the maintenance of that networks are also substantial. But finally, we do see that other service providers or the OTT players which actually are leveraging our infrastructure are providing service where the telco operators, basically, they don't generate any money. So our aim is actually not to focus solely on connectivity and on the infrastructure management, but also increase the ecosystem of values which we are providing to our customers. Yes, we provide connectivity, but then we're expanding our vision into providing near core services, but also providing services from adjacent industries, like it has been mentioned also, e-health, insurtech, fintech, and so on and so forth. And also in your question, you also mentioned the fourth industrial revolution which is coming. Actually, it is the new era which is, actually we are on a doorstep, and it starts blending the boundaries between the physical, biological, and the digital dimensions. And it goes into the direction of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, ICT services, and so on and so forth. And this is actually where we do see opportunity to increase or to develop this incremental values which we are providing to our customers, and this is to increase their loyalty. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So it seems that digitalization is one of the most key priorities that we should all focus.
Yeah, absolutely.
We will continue with the next panelist, Mr. Nikola Youssef, CEO of the Makedonski Telekom. Makedonski Telekom is the leading national telecommunication operator which has been part of the Deutsche Telekom Group since 2001. The company provides the following services both for customers and business customers: voice and data services via mobile and fixed network, advanced cloud and ICT solutions with a very huge international experiences. Also, you are dedicated in creating ICT and smart solutions such as also smart cities platforms. How do you promote public-private partnerships to involve the private sector in the government initiative and vice versa, how government could support private sector initiative? How to balance between short political gains and long-term development impact of infrastructure projects? How to keep operators motivated to invest in better and faster connectivity, knowing that in the Davos Forum it was announced that until 2030 maybe we will have 6G.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation and for the nice introduction. I'm apparently the last speaker and the only obstacle for you to go to the lunch, so I will try to be as short as possible. And I will start with the notion of basically how the Minister Buchwalski started speaking about the physical infrastructure, about the roads and the highways. And I will continue about the digital highways of the future, which are equally important, I would say. And I have been engaged in some discussions on public-private partnerships for a very long period of time, more than 4 years. And regretfully, I have to say that I have failed miserably, convincing other private companies and public, the government and institutions about the importance of public-private partnerships for the future. It sounds very much to this William Shakespeare's play Much Ado About Nothing, Mnogo vreva za ništo, na makedonski. And it's a pity. In my opinion, it's the only way how we can move forward, because in the last 20-25 years, in the segment of digital highways, it was only private companies investing money. And as we are moving forward, as we are moving the frontier towards less and less profitable areas, of course, at some point of time, we are going to see that inevitably we will stop at some point of time when we will not be in a position to demonstrate return of investment to our shareholders. In our opinion, and based on our calculations, it's going to be around 20 to 25% of the households in the country that will be limited of access to next generation networks, fiber optics and so on, due to the fact that at this very moment, the name of the game, regretfully, is private companies invest and regulators and policymakers just expect the benefits from these private investments. We have already provided some tangible, concrete projects, which are interesting for us, of course, as a private investor, but regretfully, these investments are too much for us. We cannot hold the burden alone. We are inviting our competitors to join. We are inviting the state to join. I'm speaking about intercity connectivity, fiber optic intercity connectivity between Struga and Debar, where the project is already deployed. It's less than €1 million investment. We as Makedonski Telekom are ready to commit up to 50% of it, and we're looking for other investors to join forces and make it happen. Now, the last thing, which is a consequence of what I have said, how to motivate private companies to continue further investing, I would say that there are two fronts where we can concentrate. The first one is the local challenges or the local problems. And the other one is the global problem that Mr. Mirchev already mentioned about over-the-top players having a free ride over our infrastructure. And I will start first with that one and we'll follow then with the local. I don't know how explicitly we were speaking so far, but more than 70% of the traffic that we are carrying at this very moment in our networks is the traffic that is basically social networks, video, and gaming. Over 50% of the traffic that is carried at this very moment by our network originates from 4 global companies that we called FANG: Facebook, Apple, Netflix, and Google. They're paying nothing for the infrastructure that we are constantly upgrading, deploying, maintaining, and operating. We are speaking about a serious problem that is becoming more and more prominent on the both sides of Atlantic. FCC in United States is looking on this issue, but as well European Commission that is looking very closely on the development in Europe. We are speaking about 50 to 60 billion euros per annum of fees that supposedly these companies that are piggybacked by our network have to pay to us. Of course, we need to figure out how to make it happen, because if it is not happening, that at some point of time, simply our appetite for investments further will disappear and diminish. On the local front, well, I'm happy that the minister is here. And I would say that to make comfort for the private companies to invest further in the local community, we need to fix the past. Makedonski Telekom, as a private company, but at some point of time it was a state-owned company, possessed quite some kilometers of cable ducts that are still under question mark, with big question mark about the legal status. We are looking eagerly for the law on legalization. I know that it's prepared and it's in the parliament somewhere, and we are encouraging the political elites to push things forward, because if we are not in a position to clear up the mess from the past and to get property list of what belongs to us, of course, our position convincing our shareholders to further invest in future is going to be very problematic. The second issue is the regulation. I'm not convinced that the regulation that exists at this very moment stimulates competition in infrastructure. Frankly speaking, 90% of customers on fiber optics are the customers connected to Makedonski Telekom network, which speaks very loudly that nobody else aside of Makedonski Telekom is investing in fiber optics at this very moment. Let's see how things are going to unfold in future. So all in all, that's it. I promise to be sharp on time, and hopefully I was. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So your messages to policymakers, thank you. The messages that you pointed out to policymakers also to improve the legal changes will be also very good, because today with us we have the director from the Tax Revenue Office and so on. We have a little bit more time, very few if there is some questions from the audience. Very short, please. If no, we can close this panel. Taking a general conclusion, strong growth of public investment, digitalization and digital infrastructure can achieve fiscal sustainability in the medium term. Thank you very much and have a nice lunch.
Thank you for your attention. We will continue after the lunch break.